We do know it's been reported that Morning Joe is Joe Biden's favorite show. And while Joe himself, not Joe Biden, Joe Scarborough on Friday of last week said, Biden's got to go. I don't know if was he on today? It didn't seem like maybe he takes Mondays off, or I don't know. But Mika Brzezinski
led this whole segment.
Yes, here's Mika Brzezinski.
Thursday's abysmal debate performance, President Biden finds himself at rock bottom again. It was bad. And again, a chorus of Biden doubters. My family and I, as you know, have known this man for decades, and his family as well. And yes, I know them personally. And I still believe in Joe Biden. I've learned that counting him out is always a mistake. And doing that now could be catastrophic for our country. Do there need to be changes? Yes. Managing him. Management to his schedule. Changes maybe even to those around him. I'll also say America needs an explanation from Joe Biden and reassurance that the other night was a one-time event and not part of a larger problem. By the way, Biden likes to tell people, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. So let's take a quick moment to look at the current alternative.
We know the alternative.
Well, hold on, I do want to hear her say that, but this is pretty astonishing. How do you guarantee that this is not going to happen again? I mean, that's sort of the point.
Yep.
I don't think the debate happened. That's because they didn't give us a guarantee it wouldn't. Nobody promised that he would get up there. And when the abortion question was asked, that he was going to sort of wander into saying that immigrants, talking about immigrant rape stories. Or nobody said that when it came time to discussing the questions about the tax bill that he, said beat back Medicare.
We're going to beat Medicare. And then we beat Medicare. Then that was how he ended his response. And then Trump said, you're right, you beat it to death. The Democrats beat it to death.
It's just a weird framing that she's doing,
Chris
saying
Hayes,
you're going to have to manage.
Chris Hayes on her network made this point. One of the things I find weird about the way people are talking about this is the assumption that it's static, when by definition, the entire point is that it's dynamic and the effects of aging change over time. That's the point. Him bouncing back, he's gonna bounce back right into a time machine? What the fuck are we talking about here?
The idea, he came back that next day and people are like, look at how great he looks. No, he didn't. What are people talking about? Even when he doesn't look as bad as he did debate night, he still looks horrible. He looked horrible leading up to this debate. He's gonna look horrible afterwards because he is a very elderly person.
We are, and Pelosi's older than him and Clyburn's older than him, but they're still, Bernie's older than him. But the three of those guys, people talk differently. Okay, it affects people differently, and the point here is just we did this with Feinstein, which was less consequential, but RBG, we were just talking about it. The 6-3 decision on presidential immunity is in part because RBG refused to retire under Obama, and Trump got to replace her. We're going to do this with the presidency, with Trump looming and Project 2025.
And then blame the voters that they're not taking it seriously enough.
5-alarm fire. We have an opportunity to change the narrative right now. And the toothpaste is not going back in the tube. A convention in which someone was selected, or even if it's Kamala Harris, where there's new energy, brings excitement and eyeballs in a media environment that is siloed and oversaturated, where Trump can dominate just by being as crazy as possible. The entire American public is devastated by the choices that we have. Yeah. And there's an opportunity to change course and also grab eyeballs and attract energy when it's desperately needed. When we're talking about literally the fate of democratic processes in this country. And I find it so disturbing to see people actually propping this up and saying, don't believe your lying eyes. And Hillary lost to Trump in 2016 when he was more of a wild card, and we were a little bit dismissive of the polls had her up in many instances, but it was still scary looking. We were dismissive of it, and look what happened. Biden has been down consistently for months at this point. And after that debate performance, I'm telling you, there's no chance that he can recover, at least from this narrative's perspective in the mind's eye of the American public.
I think, the real question Well, I think there's two questions. There's one, the actual reality of the thing, which is if it is the case, as is reported, that his advisors are Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and Ted Kaufman, all of whom have a
I need a
Chris
Don
Coons
too.
in there too.
yeah, I mean, Chris Coons, I don't know how much he's an advisor as much as he is a surrogate. James Carvell had said something to the effect of like, he doesn't have advisors, he has employees. And that is, I think Hunter Biden also has a similar vested interest in Joe Biden staying president. Because, this for him, it is sort of not quite existential, but pretty existential in terms of like the way his life operates. Because he's looking at very potentially going to prison. That's one reality. Then the other question, as if we had any power in this instance, right? Like, even when it comes to like, even court decisions on some level, like we can have the way we know that Supreme Court justices perceive, their legacy is important. We know that politicians broadly, ones that feel like they have or want a future in politics, respond to like, the Supreme Court's bad. You need to reform it. John Roberts, historians are going to write that the guy, didn't call balls and strikes or whatever it is. Like, as it stands now, it really looks like we have absolutely, by we, I mean everybody, has like very little ability to impact what Joe Biden does at this point, because there is no, there's just no mechanism. But it is also worth, even if we did, it's worth at least contemplating, what happens on the other side. Because, you say like it's going to attract eyeballs. If Kamala Harris is the nominee, the best thing, or anybody else is the nominee at that point, the best thing is, like, it seems to me, is again, not to make this a referendum on Kamala Harris at that point, but it's a referendum on Donald Trump. I mean, that's the strategy where it's been.
She can talk about abortion without being...
But she could talk about abortion without feeling the same reservations, apparently, that Joe Biden does.
Or Gaza.
It's difficult. Listen, it's very difficult to know what happens on the other side of this. So I think it's like it's easy to take it as a granted that things are going to work out for the better. But really, the real question is just like the only thing that's changed. The dangers associated with having a different person on the ballot and the potential fighting that could take place and the weaknesses any individual brings. None of that's changed from where it was 6 months ago. What has changed is on the Biden side. The risk appears to be significantly greater.
And what's also changed is that there is actually maybe some momentum within the Democratic Party. Raskin coming out and saying Raskin is, a left of center Democrat, but he's not Rashida Tlaib. Like, Raskin is somebody who knows people, and Pelosi's giving weak, tepid responses. Kamala Harris admitted it was a slow start. I understand that there's risk here, but my point is that there's more risk, in my view, of going down this road as we continue. And I'm terrified now. Like, I had really actually felt quite confident going into this debate that it would be the way that the Biden administration campaign had said.
The bar for what constituted success from him was not very high.
And I just like...
Do you think he can reach that bar again? No. Having seen him at that debate? Because I think he can't. Like, we kept talking about the thing he needs to do.
It's 50-50, but I also worry that, like, there's not going to be a campaign stop where he has a problem. I mean, like, that's...
Oh, every
but here's the thing.
will be under a spotlight now.
But here's the thing, is that, that is almost like a guaranteed problem, right? Unless, like, he has, like, he goes through the next 3 months and there's no issues.
Yeah, that was actually just...
To me, like, one of the things that's going to be the most unassailable arbiter, right? Because everything we're doing is speculation. The cost associated getting rid of him or the benefits associated with getting rid of him, it's all speculative. We don't know. The chances of him having, some type of episode, I think, like, They've always been there. It's just that we're a little bit more clear on those chances. Again, that's speculative. When we see polling that is not flash polling in the wake of the debate, it's not including, samples from like the week before the debate, and is not like a second order thing in my estimation as to should he be the candidate, because that's not okay. Maybe he shouldn't be the candidate, but if he is the candidate, who do you vote for? That's really the only operative question. If in 2 weeks or a week or whatever it is, and I would imagine there's a lot of more interest in polling this week than there may have been, and faster, because, if I was a news organization, I would want to come out with this first poll, having it done it obviously properly. If the polling comes out and shows that this debate hurt Biden outside, let's say, the margin of error, I think it becomes a lot harder for the Biden, even the family, to justify it to themselves, to Jill Biden to even justify it for themselves. But they can easily sit there and go, it hasn't hurt him.
The earliest we have from CBS is that 72%, up from 65% in earlier June, say Biden does not have the mental and cognitive health to be president, and that's registered voters. And Democratic registered voters are also up 46%, according to CBS.
But again,
now say Biden shouldn't be running. I get it, but we're also in conjunction with swing state polls where he was already down.
Yeah, but there's a category error there.
Why?
The question isn't, will I vote for Biden? That's the only one that matters. It isn't, do I think he's a sack of clay? I happen to think he's a sack of clay, but would I vote for him? Yes.
But I just said this. But the swing state polls are about who people want to vote for, and those were already bad.
Well, but
the scenario of him going up from this is crazy.
Well, look, I would be shocked if he went up on this. I would be less shocked if it made no difference. I would be the least shocked if it hurt him. I mean, I look at that and it makes me worried. But I don't, this is the thing we said that night of the debate too, and on Friday. We really don't know how how normies react to this type of thing. I don't know how many undecideds read Thomas Friedman. I don't know. I'm not being cute about this. I really don't. And the real question is we're talking about a very small cohort of people across 7 states that are the most important ultimately for the Electoral College. And so if I'm the Biden family, there's no way I even contemplate pulling out of the race unless, I'm, all of a sudden the scales drop from Jill's eyes and she realizes oh, that's why he's been walking in circles, before he goes to bed, whatever it is.
Well, yeah,
but there's no way I say I'm going to do this before I see any polling. There's just no way.
Of course not. But that's what they're saying. That's why in the bottom of these articles, it's they'll make a decision in 2 weeks. They're waiting for, but in this time period, we should be, and that's why these pod save guys are talking about it. We should be having a conversation because we're marching towards our freaking collective suicide with this. I really don't think he needed to create an opportunity for him to elevate himself over Trump, and he did the inverse. And if you're a down ballot Democrat, you're going to be freaking out right now. And let me just also say, this in some way solves. There's going to be huge protests about Gaza at the convention. You want that to be the story? And his cognitive failures?
The cognitive failures will probably overshadow the.
But there will be I know. I know. But either way, that will be the twin conversations, anti-genocide protests, and then Biden's issues, and it also limits his ability to campaign. So I saw his schedule. People, blue, I don't want to call them blue MAGA derisively, but people who are supporting Biden were posting his campaign schedule, and that's true. He's going to some rallies and he's saying the same speech over and over. He's not doing extemporaneous interviews in the way that he should be as a candidate that is down in the polls against Donald Trump.
He's using the teleprompter in the Hamptons for fundraisers.
I mean, I don't care about that. Exactly.
No, I mean, like,
right.
that's like how gone he is.
But that's what I'm supposed to be measuring as some sort of rigorous campaign schedule here. And
It's cope.
it's crazy. So, like, you know, Biden's failing the Hillary Clinton 2008 3 a.m. phone call tests. Like, who do you want to call in 3 a.m. if there's some issue? Right now, from a substantive perspective, you can't say that that's Biden. But putting that aside, even if you don't care, even if you just are like me and would prefer a Democratic administration over a Republican one by many times over, like, there is an opportunity to actually reset the narrative here, and in a way that I didn't think that we would have going into this. And so
here's a counter to what you're saying. Meaningless poll. You guys are doomers. The president in the West Wing had medical issues that were covered up and came to light during the campaign, and he won re-election. I mean, like
we need Aaron Sorkin to write the script.
The West Wing, the show.
Never watched The West Wing.
No, I didn't either, but I assume that that's true.
I'm
assuming that happens.
Yes, yes.
It's
This
funny,
goes
like,
to-
I saw people talk about this, saying it's the West Wing type mentality to get him to move. I don't think Democrats understand how much they have blown the trust in the American people on this stuff. I think people were shocked to see Biden. And, like, look, we'll see about the polling. I think, like, this stuff might not...
Well, I don't
go
think
for a
there was
while.
anybody who wasn't shocked, frankly.
I mean, the elder abuse stuff, like, it was appalling. And now we're to see the full court press of, like, Ruth Ben-Ghiat saying, like, oh, it was propaganda 101 the way they staged this debate. No, this was an incompetent guy. Like, I fully think they might have shown him the sight lines, and he just forgot because he's not competent to, like, remember where the cameras are anymore.
Well, he was looking at somebody.
I mean, at the moderators.
Well, I guess the point is that when you do that, you know where the moderators. I mean, that I don't think is necessarily his problem. Although maybe he could have, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know, but
I just am saying, I know it's a risk. But there's also, like, potential for reward, and I don't want that to get discounted because of the robust institutional inertia that the Democrats often are hampered by.
I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, you're saying that this is like a they or the Democrats, and I really do think it's like about 4 people.
But that was what the Axios reporting was saying, was that his inner circle is so insular, but that's coming to light now and potentially gives an opening for Democrats who are freaking out, like in leadership, who are going around and doing these interviews or speaking anonymously to the press, to get in there. Because now it's come to light.
They know those top Democrats know that his inner circle is that tight. They've known that forever.
So they just let it happen.
Well, there's no. It's not a question of, like, let it happen or not. You can't. Nancy Pelosi can't go to Joe Biden last year or 3 years ago and go, hey, I want to put my person in your closest group of advisors. Joe Biden will get the F out of my office.
But they basically greased the runway for him to run for re-election, understanding that this is one of the most insular White Houses in history, without knowing that he was in his 81 and had a...
Of course.
I
mean, of course it's not, but how do you grease the runway for an incumbent? I mean, I guess all of these people could have come out and said, I don't think Joe Biden was going to be the... And look, I don't know what I would do as a politician in that instance, but to expect these people, particularly the people who have gotten to the top of the party apparatus, to come out and put their necks out and say, like last fall, I don't think Joe Biden should be the nominee, then and no one else is going to join them because, I mean, look, you didn't even have a candidate.
That's not my expectation. I mean, that's not necessarily what I'm saying, but I do believe that they allowed themselves to be deluded and they didn't really look into things when, I guess it's just Schumer running the show in the Senate and Hakeem Jeffries in the House.
I just think that I think that, like, what you think happens at that level is not what happens.
So Biden's just running independently of the Democratic Party?
No. The Democratic Party goes along with it, but no single individual or even a group of them is going to come out and stick their necks out because...
That's not what I was saying. Like,
but what
but
do you-
internally, they basically, there was an understanding, I think, probably between power players within the Democratic Party that Biden was not up to snuff here, or they just allowed him to run this, like, there was no internal discussion, anything.
No, it's
there's-
drowned out. I mean, that's the
But there's
thing,
no way for them to stop him. I'm just
mean,
saying that there's
the
no way
problem-
to stop an incumbent president from running again if he believes that he's going to do it.
There's a norm that's been sort of established, though, and discipline been enforced with regards to, say, what Bernie Sanders tried to do with Obama in 2012, which is support a primary. And that is a norm that has been snuffed out by Democratic Party, like saying, we don't do that in this party.
Oh, I don't think that was a function of that as much as you had a bunch of potential candidates who could have run against Biden, and they all made the exact same calculation, which is, if I run against him right now, I'm going to ruin my future in the Democratic Party because I'm going to also alienate a bunch of voters. And so I'm not going to. It's worth it for me to wait 4 years and try and run against Kamala Harris.
They were all triangulating or they're all planning for 2028.
This is the way politicians operate.
I agree. Fair enough
I
on
think
the
I don't
pre.
think I don't think the discipline is just the voters, though. Like, I think there are people within the party who would. have held it against-
Sure, but you're talking about, like, the 465 members or whatever it is of the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about, I don't know, some fundraiser, some donors who organize money. I mean, you're talking about all of these different apparatus, all these different people who all have their own sort of like individual agenda. I mean, this is the way that, like,
I hear
these
what you're
things
saying,
function.
but I do think that post debate we're in a bit of a different situation here.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who think, like, oh, wait, this is not in my best interest. And there's other people getting out there saying this, and it was so undeniable. I'm not sticking my neck out as much as I would be. And, even, Raskin's out there, and he's like, sort of like,
Creating oxygen.
he's sticking his neck out a little bit, but not too much. I mean, yes. But again, the problem at this stage is, if there had been an event like this a year ago, let's say,
Right.
I don't even know that he was in the same state, frankly, that he is in now.
Well, that should be considered.
But if there was an event like this a year ago, before there have been, how many primaries? What are we, like, 50 primaries? 45? If that had already been, he's already got the delegates. Like, that's the thing.
I know
It's a different situation.
We're not disagreeing that he's the one who has to make the decision, but I do think that the circumstances of pressure points are much more visible. They're more easily pressed, and there's more oxygen for the Democratic Party to make this case right now in a way that I did not foresee coming out of this debate. When you had the freak out on MSNBC and CNN, and you heard the Democrats internally freaking out, you hear lukewarm quotes from Pelosi, you see Raskin coming out, there's an opportunity here. And I just want people to be aware of that, because this could change in the coming weeks.
I mean, it's a shame, because a lot of this could have changed if there was a strong primary thing. Because why did LBJ leave the race? Because RFK got into the
Exactly.
race to say we needed to end the Vietnam War. And, maybe if Julian Castro ran. But I think the Democratic base is more averse to democracy, and the party itself is more averse to democracy even than it was back when it was a closed door convention deciding who is the candidate. They're not interested in that sort of stuff.
No power. Sam, I'm confused. There is no way for us to put pressure on Biden to drop out, but Biden and his family will be concerned and think about dropping out if the opinion polls indicate that. So basically, opinion polls have the power to influence the decision. Yes, if you are polled and you want to get Biden out of the race, I do think it provides the only way that I think Biden goes out of the race is if those polls as to who you will vote for in the fall change. Now, like, I can tell you, personally, I think that, like, having Biden stay in at this juncture is probably too risky. But if he is the candidate, I'm going to vote for him. And I'm not even I'm not even convinced that, he can make it for the inauguration speech. But if he's the candidate, I'm going to vote for him.
I mean, I agree, but you know.
You need to get a turnout, though. I mean, you can rationalize that
Exactly.
as much as you want, and we can all pretend.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting other people are going to feel this way.
Right.
I'm just saying that's the way I feel.
In my obsession over this weekend, like you see, you know, NBC interviewed voters in Atlanta, in Georgia, and they were like, "This makes you want to not vote for president at all," is what one person said. And you know, who knows, right? But I could
But I
see
think
that.
that's right.
I think that's right. I gut feel,
It
and
was right in 2016. I felt like the Hillary versus Trump thing was the exact same. People left the ballot blank, and she lost for that reason.
And I'm also talking to just random liberal Democratic voters who don't like Bernie or something, and they think Biden should drop out.
What's amazing is that Bernie was considered too old last, and he's just hanging in there in a. I mean, look, there's no doubt that being president for 4 years ages you, but I think some people are more prone to problems at this age than others, and Joe Biden seems to be one of those people. I mean,
I mean, Mika, how's it gonna get better? How's it gonna get better?
No, it's on us.
He's
got to
be managed.
to save the world.
He's got to be managed.
Even though
better.
we don't actually have any power, it's on us to just save it in November, and then they can go back to get whatever Zions.
I'm trying to save what we've got by putting. We got to put someone else on the ticket. But yeah, I know. We'll see.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.